Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Can't thank you enough for the support. You've all been legends in my book. You can go a step further, become a member of the channel. It really does help the channel out as well, so I can't thank you enough for that. We're here today to talk about something really exciting. We've got 2.5 debutants this weekend, so let's try and get to know them, have a little bit of a VFL and a bit of a recap of what they were like in the draft when we covered them. So let's get into it because it's a really exciting time. And without any further ado, the first guy we're going to look at, the half one, the 2.5, Jaxon Binns. His last 5 games for the VFL have been pretty impressive. We're starting to see him play a lot more half forward in that Matt Cottrell role. And we can see here from his numbers, it's 27.2 touches, 18.6 kicks, 73.1 disposal efficiency, 6.2 marks, 2.8 inside 50s, 2.4 rebound 50s, really showcasing that two-way running that we know Jaxon is capable of. 7.4 contested possessions, the 5 intercepts, really impressive. 1.2 clearances, pinch hitting and around stoppage, particularly being that dynamic player, particularly around the forward half stoppage, has really been a showcase. 6.2 score involvements and 1.6 tackles. And it's really important when we look at Jaxon's the highlights role of what's he going to do to impact in this game. That's going to be the really big question mark. A lot of it's been talked about his defensive prowess, but I do like this move more to a forward role. Now, when we saw him in Dandenong, one of the big things with him was his kicking efficiency and probably his defensive craft. But this is something that definitely has worked on, particularly with the kicking. The thing about Jaxon is when he's out in space, he is super, super clean. It's more that contested work, which was always the knock at juniors. And it's got to be remembered that when people find knocks in wingers, it's almost like the reporters who talk about wingers have never watched a winger play. We don't want him to have contested ball. We want him to be out in space. And this is going to be really key when he plays against West Coast Eagles. Recently, we've seen with the Blues, they have been absolutely appalling at spreading. And one of the big issues is the wings have been starting to pinch hit in. I do really like where he is suggested to start from Michael Voss. Michael Voss made an allusion that he will play the wing. Now, that's going to be interesting because obviously it looks like Ollie Hollands is going to go a little bit further forward. And it looks like that Blake Acres is going to swing in that halfback role, but then also play the wing himself. Now, I kind of like this for Jaxon because it's going to be imperative if they give him the Blake Acres wing, where it's a little bit more ostentatious, a little bit more aggressive. This plays into his skill set. My advice to Jaxon would be to stay wide and look for the easy ball. If Carlton keep their width, that naturally makes them a little bit more dynamic, particularly when they turn the ball over, but also not committing too many players back. I really do like this role for Jaxon, and you know what? He has definitely earned it. You can say what you like about his defensive craft. If they convert that wing into more that is conducive with what Jaxon's good at, this next 2 weeks is going to be really, really, really apparent for him. He definitely does deserve a crack, and he's definitely been unlucky for that. It's been the way that Carlton have played their wingers, of trying to play them defensive and protect the halfbacks, has really been an issue. I do like this move for him. I hope he gets it, and I am excited to see Ollie play and float a little bit half forward. I do like his ability to run inside. If they can rotate these people, they're going to find a way to get Ben Camporelli in this side. That is so important. It's been really interesting how they've used that right-hand side winger, Ollie Hollands, now Jaxon Binns, in the future Ben Camporelli. It doesn't really suit anyone's game style. It's more of an old person defensive job. I'm really excited to see if this gives a dynamic little approach for him, because one thing that Jaxon's got in abundance is his ability to hit the scoreboard, but also his work rate and make something happen. He's definitely one of the premium wingers in the draft of his year as well. We know Starter's got a lot of reps, and so did Jai Clark. This kid could do it and always steps up. His VFL has been consistent. He's learnt a new role and he's played pretty good football with that, albeit not the 47 touches out on the wing, but that is got to be what he's looking at. Stay out there. That Collingwood game is the benchmark, and very excited about seeing what that could bring. Up next, Cooper Lord, our mid-season draftee, averaging 25.2 touches, 10.2 kicks, 63.6 disposal efficiency, 3.8 marks, 3.8 inside 50s, 2 rebound 50s, 11.2 contested marks, 2.2 intercepts, 4.4 clearances, 0.6 goals a game, 5.2 score involvements, and a staggering 6.4 tackles, with 0.4 of them coming inside the forward 50 half. And it's really important to know about Mr. Cooper Lord that in 2023, he was literally the main man in that Sandringham team. In the terms of he was the defensive guy, he did it, and the Sandringham Dragons went on to win the title. And also this year he played for them as well in spurts. Not as many games, but as an overager. Overlooked in the draft, and it's quite common that this happens when you've got such a star-studded Sandy side. It's interesting that Cowan took Matt Carroll, his mate in there. Cooper Lord was probably the big industrial worker there. But what has this guy done? When he's come into the scene in the VFL side, we've really seen the point of difference of him. That is his pace, his ability to break lines as well as be incredibly defensive. A lot of people told me when I watched his draft year to look out for him because they know that I'm a sucker for Tuck Miller. And there is a lot of Tuck Miller about this guy. The fact that he is so rambustious, the fact that he does work so hard two ways as shown by his stats, but also his ability to break through that first line of defence in stoppage and clearance. And this shouldn't be understated. One thing about him as well is he loves to get in space and he loves to drill a low ball inside 50. Harry Lemmy has been the beneficiary of that, as so has Liam McMahon, but also his ability to not be scared of contact and play people in around. And that is something that I always look for in the draft. Cooper Lord stood out in 2023 because he was happy to provide. He was the provider, and that is something that is very hard. The stars in the draft translate to AFL. When you're not the star, you're an auxiliary, you're a role player. This kid here is a point of difference. When you look at Carlton's flat-footed midfield, there is a point of difference where you can still have the defence, but have a bit of je ne sais quoi. And Cooper has got that in abundance. A very solid player, a fierce competitor, but also someone that looks to make something happen as well as just sitting in the defence. He's not a one-sided player. This kid can do both things, attack and defend. He ain't scared to lead as well for the kick-ins. A player that's got a little bit of talent, a little bit of mongrel, and a breath of fresh air in that middle of the park. Up next, and finally, Ashton Moir. One of my favourite players in the draft. If you remember that period of time, I was hot on this guy. A kid that can play with two sides of his feet, good in the air, and he's got a real good hunger to win and play football. And someone, in my opinion, the most improved in the VFL this year, playing up the ground on the wing, showcasing that ability to be two-way running and also add areas of his game. 13.8 touches coming from half forward up to the wing, 7.6 kicks, 77 disposal efficiency. One of the big concerns in his draft was his output, and he's really worked hard on bringing players in and around in the game. The 4 marks really keeping his width. It's interesting that Jaxon Binns and this guy have a great knowledge of keeping their width, keeping their shape, and not falling looking for the ball, which is why some of the knocks on him for the untrained eye when they watch the VFL is, oh, he's not involved. This is why he keeps his space. He's very happy to do what he needs to do. 0.6 rebound 50s, 5.6 contested possessions, 3.6 intercepts, 0.6 clearance. Has been used as a point of difference in the forward half stoppages and using his big body. 0.8 goals, 5.8 score involvements, 2 tackles and 0.4 tackles. And as the highlights roll, one thing we've noticed about Ashton this year is his real effort to add these strings and add these layers. It's all well and good coming into the VFL with the weapons from the draft, but if you can't do it and get to the top level and add something, you're always going to stagnate. And it has really been showcased that he's been willing to play the harder position, do something that is less like Ashton and still be involved. And it has added massive strings to his bow. He's had some couple of good games recently, so the debut is coming at the right time. And when Jack Martin is that big hole, and you can see how Carlton are different, Ashton Moir has a huge ceiling that is way beyond Jack Martin, but he's got that ability to prove he's durable, which was one of the knocks in his draft class. Very clever, very canny, ability to make something out of nothing, but also being happy to be the link man. And that is something Carlton desperately lack. Am I expecting a career best game? No, it's obviously a better, harder competition, but this is probably the debut out of the 3 I'm super excited about because it's something that Carlton don't have so much. Him and Jaxon have really combined well up that flank as well, so that is some continuity there for them, and Cooper Lords has found these two at will when his averages touches. They're the 3 debutants. Get around them. I'm really excited. Well, 2.5 debutants. I'm really excited about seeing these boys do it. Hopefully you've learned a bit about them and you can go out there with a little bit more knowledge. Go well, young things. We're looking forward to seeing what you're doing. Go and get it done. Pum out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella